Hi everybody, it's Mandy Sanghera here from the UK. I'm really honoured to be supporting the Global Hackathon with Elena again, and it's a great honour to be talking about some of the work that I've been doing globally around the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 10, which is about tackling inequalities. It's really important now as we are in the midst of a global pandemic of COVID-19. I'm going to be talking about vulnerable groups. I'm going to be looking at the message around how do we support people who are most at risk and how we tackle social isolation and help people's mental health and well-being, and also how can we better upskill frontline first responders around supporting the most vulnerable as we are right now. So as the challenge is, it's about how do we best support the most vulnerable. And when we talk about the group vulnerable, we're talking about people with disabilities, older people, people with underlying health problems who are most at risk from COVID-19. So that is the group that we're talking about at the moment. Also, I'm looking at people from the BME community, which is the Black and Ethnic Minority community, who seem to be hit hard, even though we're saying that this is an equaliser and this disease does not discriminate. But we have seen that actually it does discriminate, because actually some of the death around the world have been people from different backgrounds. So there's been different theories around people's lifestyle choices, people's diet, people living together, extended families, cultural, economic, social, all of those inequalities that have been a real issue that we've been trying to tackle for years have now come to the forefront. I also live in the UK, where we have healthcare which is free and we are able to have the right support. But I also know that there are an awful lot of people around the world that can't have access to medication. They don't have access to water. They don't have an education. They don't have the same rights and life choices that we have been given. And all of those things have been contributing factors. There's been an awful lot of older people who have become very isolated, who were already isolated and were already a vulnerable group. However, they were able to join different groups, they were able to keep in touch with people, go to their local shops. All of those things now have come to a full stop for those people. So one of the challenges is how do we engage and how do we support the most vulnerable to be able to keep in touch or actually access and get the basics that they require? How do we do that? That could be a challenge. Also, as we know, that there's an awful lot of people with disabilities who are fairly independent, but sometimes it's the other circumstances around them that they can't access that actually become a contributing factor. For instance, if somebody has a visual impairment, they use their sense of touch more to get around and feel and buy things. But if they cannot touch and not go out as much, how do they do that? People with underlying health conditions who may be a diabetic and other things, and asthma and things like that, normally can live a very independent life. However, this illness has really caused a lot of other factors to them. So how can they continue to promote their well-being? We also recognise that mental health affects 1 in 4 people. And actually, this is now having a real impact on most normal people who were mentally quite strong and emotionally intelligent, had a lot going for them in their lives. But actually, we're seeing a real increase in people's well-being, emotional health and mental well-being. So we need to look at how do we address that. Also, I do a lot of work around violence against women. But in recent weeks, we've seen a real spike in violence against women around the world and men. We know that violence doesn't discriminate, and there's been an awful lot of victims who have been victims of abuse and violence. And how do we support that vulnerable group as well? So where people can't leave the home and they're in a home in a situation with somebody very controlling and manipulating that person, and they don't know where to go for support. So we need to look at what else can we do to try and support that most vulnerable group as well. One of the other challenges that we have found is that actually frontline staff, there's been a lot of volunteers, a lot of people who are supporting the communities to keep it going, looking at supporting people. But there has been a spike where people are worried about the care help that comes in to support you with your medication, help you get washed and dressed if you're vulnerable. But you're worried about somebody coming in and being affected and bringing that virus into your home, or if you're affected by this and you are positive and then your carer goes off to another person, then they're becoming a carrier. I know that there's lots of tests and things being done to capture that. However, there are a lot of fear. How do we tackle all the fake stories that are out there? How do we tackle the fake news and the stories and all the WhatsApp messages and social media posters posting a lot of fear to people? How do we tackle all of that? That would be great. It is so important that, you know, when we look at the domestic violence, normally people will not ask for help for at least 30 odd times before. And also there are children who are no longer at school, who are also experiencing a lot of emotional abuse at home, and those children are also vulnerable. We need to look at that, and we need to sort of address those real issues about people who are vulnerable all the time anyway, because of their circumstances of where they live and the support that they require. And if they are not able to get that support, so where a school is a safe place, a nursery is a safe place, a teacher is a safe person who you can ask for help, but you're no longer at school, I am really concerned about how do we do that with young people? How do we keep young people safe? Also, there are other risks about young people using the social media. It's fantastic to use, and I'm using it as we speak today. However, it's about how do we stay safe online? How do we stop people being exploited? How do we stop all the scams and schemes? So if you're vulnerable at home, an older person or a person with a disability, and somebody tries to sell you something or tries to exploit you financially or try and come into your home and befriend you, how do we keep you safe? So, you know, this is a very difficult time for everyone around the world. But we also know that there's been some great work that has been done. There's been some great, amazing human beings and individuals who have really stepped up to support neighbours, and it's brought a lot of kindness out. At the same time, there has been the other side of the pandemic, where people are using it as an opportunity to sell things, exploit people, where people are not able to go out to the stores and people are selling things to them online. People are giving out their credit card details and bank card details to people, and they are also being exploited. So it's about how do we stay safe online as well? How do we tackle the inequalities of like healthcare and all the other social economic factors that are contributing to that? How do we address the issue around supporting the person that may be feeling more emotionally anxious and distressed about this, and it's having a negative impact on their mental health and well-being? What support can we offer to those? How do we support the most at risk, whether that's a person suffering from abuse or violence, or a young person not feeling safe at home or in the company of the adult that they're being put to look after them? So what else can we do to keep those people safe? How can we support the frontline support staff as well? There's a lot in this about vulnerable, and the umbrella is a really big word, and vulnerable, because anyone, even sometimes I'm feeling quite vulnerable because I'm quite anxious about this illness, but I can get through it because I'm mentally quite strong and I'm watching a lot of positive stuff. And it's really, really important that we look at some of the great good work that has been done globally, and we want young people to support other young people. Let's share our knowledge and our expertise. Let's share our ideas. Let's come together and tackle this together. We have 17 goals to achieve, and they're all intertwined in some way. And I think more than ever, this has really shown us that actually anyone can be affected, and we need to look at how do we tackle these global pandemics again in the future? How do we get the next generation involved in tackling COVID and all the other things with tech and AI? I'm really looking forward to your ideas and solutions and challenges, what you come up with. And I wish you all a fantastic hackathon, and I hope you're going to have a great time. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this team comes up with. Thank you.